Today you will learn about strings, list, tuple, and dictionary. There's a lot to learn, so let's get started. String is one of the data type in Python. Creating a string is as simple as using double quotes. You can use any variable of your choice. Hi. Enter. So now if you print X, you can see that it's a string. Also, there's a function in Python which you can use, that is type function. What this does is it will tell you the data type of that particular variable. There are multiple ways of creating a string. One is, as you have seen, double quotes. You can also use single quotes, and you can use triple quotes if you want to write a multi-line string. I'm going to insert a multi-line string here. What you have to note here is you have to use the same quotes that you have used to open the string. You can either use double quotes or you can use single quotes. Let me just print out a raw string over here. You have to use this keyword R just before the quotes. You know that this \n is a new line character. What raw string does is it prints out the \n as well. If you had to do the same thing with just the normal string, well, it would have printed it in 2 lines. So in this case, if you wanted to escape those special characters, using \, again, there you go. You can say hi. Let's say you want to write it 3 times into 3. So basically you can use this star character to multiply the string, as well as you can add the string. Now there's an important topic, that is indexing. So strings start with the index of 0. So this h will be 0. Then it goes on like 1, 2, 3, 4. So what indexing does is, we have this x variable. We can do this x of 0. You can see that it's selecting the first index. Now if you want the last index, you can do negative based indexing, -1. So this starts reading from the last. And also if you want to, let's say you want to start from the first character till the 4th or 5th character, you have to enter this way and leave the colon blank. From the 4th character, you want to reach all the way to the last character, leave the next part blank. So basically this is the start and this is the end. So x of start colon end is how it works. There's another variable, or there's another parameter which you can pass for slicing, and that is the third parameter. Let me just show it to you. So you put 2 colons, and the third parameter would be, let's say you want to reverse a string. You can see that this string x has been reversed and it's reading from the last. You can also use the same to jump by 2 characters. So there you go. You can play around with it to get a hang of it. And also, let me just start with formatting the strings. This will be very important when you are printing it to the console. So you can use this flower bracket and 0. Let's say this is indexing as usual, dot format. And now you can pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see what happens. So basically it has replaced these 0 and 1 with whatever you have passed, right? You can use this in a classic method, that is using %s and another %s. Let's use d because it's an integer, and put another percentage. 1 2 3 1 2 4 5 6, right? So it does the same job, but this is more neater and more Pythonic way. So I prefer format, and I suggest you to use format and get used to it. So these are all the string functionalities over here. You can find this in the description below. You can also use this length function from Python to find the length of the string. So x is of 12 characters. You've already seen two data types, int and float. There are other commonly used data types in Python like string, list, tuple, dictionary. These are all iterable data types. We'll see about that in a few minutes. Let's begin with list. List is another data type in Python. This is also called sequence, which is similar to string. You can initialize a list using the square brackets. Find the type of this list, type L. You can find that it's a list. What you can store in list is L equal to 1, 2, 3 and things like that. Now if you print this list, you have all these characters over here. Let's say you want to append to the end of the list. You can use the keyword append. Now the trick here, or a cool thing here, is you can also append a string. You're not constrained to the same data type, so you can use, so basically this is a heterogeneous structure. There are many inbuilt functions that come with list, like append, count, extend. What is the difference between append and extend? So append is going to add to the end of your string. Let's say you had a list. Let's say you had another list like L2 is equal to 2, 3 and 4 or 5. Now you want to append to L. If I print out the contents, it has actually append the entire list to the previous list. But if you wanted to extend the previous list with the new list, you can use L.extend and give the iterable over there. So L2. And now if I print L, you can see here that it has not appended the entire list, rather it has extended the previous list. So there are many other functions which you need to explore. There's one more neat function is pop. So L.pop. This will pop out the last value from the list. This is the last value. The previous last value was 5. So it will, let me just run it again. So the last value is 5. It has popped out 3. And now if you see the list, you have 2 as your last value. List can do the same indexing and slicing like strings. Let's take one of the example of indexing. L of till the 4th. You have to note that the end character is not included. End index is not included. So it is index 0, 1, 2 and 3. So the 4th index will not be included. If you had to reverse the same, you would just use a negative sign over here. So the list is reversed right now. You have to keep in mind that lists are mutable objects. L of index 0. Now if I do this assignment statement and say new value, right? Let me print L. You can see that the index 0 has been replaced. So there are other data types like tuple which are immutable. String is also immutable. You can check it out. I'm jumping into loops over here just to show you that how a iterable works. So one of the easiest method in Python to iterate over a list is, let me initialize a list in the first place. Let me call it L1. L1 is equal to 1, 2, 3 and 4 for item in L1. So in Python everything works as an indentation. You have to use 4 space indentation, which is a standard. You can also use 3 space, but make sure that the entire file is in the same format. For example, if I use 3 space over here, I have to use 3 space for indentation everywhere. So let's stick with 4 spaces. I'm just going to print the item. If I run the statement, you should be able to see the output 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's say you want the index as well as the value. You can use enumerate L1. This is going to give you the index as well as value. Index comma val in enumerate L1. How do you print this? Print idx comma val. If I run this file, you can see that it's also printing the index along with the values. So there is another function which is called a range function. So here I have defined 1, 2, 3, 4 in this format, but what if I had to define like 100? Python gives you with another function called as range, inbuilt function, for I in range. So begin with, let's say 10 and type the till 40 separated by 5. Print that I. Let me run the file. So you can see that it's 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 and 35. It's not going to include the last index, same like how we are done indexing or slicing in the list. Here you saw that list is an iterable. Since you know the concept of iterable now, you can apply it to strings as well. Let me reinitialize another string. X is a string over here. How to check it? So there you go. We can do the same thing, same for loop for character in X. Print character. You see here that each character is been printed, same like list, but you cannot do assignment because strings are immutable. If I do this, it is going to throw me an error. Does not support assignment because it's immutable. So this is the main difference between mutable and immutable objects. I'm going to show you another data type which is also immutable, same like string, which is called tuple or tuple. You have seen that the list is initialized with square brackets, but a tuple is initialized with parentheses 2, 3. It does the same thing as a list, as in you can also include a string in between. So even a tuple is heterogeneous object, but what you cannot do with the tuple is you cannot change the value once it's been initialized. You cannot do this, for example. It's going to throw you an error. That is because tuple is immutable. Tuple can also be iterated like you have done it for a list. For I in tuple, print I. There are a few functions associated with the tuple like count, index. These are all inbuilt functions which begin with double underscore. So these functions basically are being called when you, for example, if I have to show you iter, right? So when you call a for loop on a tuple, it internally calls this particular function, and if you want to overwrite it in your program later on, you can basically subclass and then override this function, which we'll get into it when we are learning about classes. So these are the functions that are available. There is another loop, while loop. To demonstrate while loop, I'm going to take a variable I is equal to 5 while I is less than 10, print I, and also increment it I plus equal to 1. You can see that it works similar to for loops, or this is the concept of looping, where you do not know the initial value and you have to use a while loop instead of a for loop. Finally, coming to the concept of dictionaries. Dictionaries in Python are nothing but key value pairs. Let's say you want to store the number of students in particular class. So you can have student count is equal to, use this brackets, flower brackets, to initialize a dictionary. Student count of, you can give the class 1 and the value it stores, let's say 50 students in class 1 and 50 students in class 2, or we will change the number to 40 students in class 2. Let's simply print the students count. So this is how a dictionary is represented, and if you want to access any particular value using the key, you can do so by using this student count of key. You can also iterate through val, or let me just begin with key in student count, print student count of key. So this is going to iterate over the entire key. You can also iterate using key val in student count dot items. So these are all inbuilt functions which you can check out in the documentation. Key val. So there are many other functions which are associated with a dictionary. For example, you can hit dot, and in PyCharm you can hit control space to view all these values. Pop is going to basically remove the item from that particular dictionary and give it back to you. Let's say you want to delete key. You can use this delete statement with the dictionary name and specify the class. Now if I print the student count, you can see that the class 1 is deleted. We have learned many topics in this session. I had to pick up my speed since I'm going to cover a lot more topics in the coming sessions. So if you have any doubts, please comment. I'll make sure that I will address to each and every one of the comments. You can always contact me on my email or through LinkedIn. So thank you for watching. Please do like, subscribe and share. Happy learning.